European Union leaders agree to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 55%. Independent National Electoral Commission commences early preparation for 2023 general elections. Advocacy and family planning financing underway as Nigeria holds 6th National Family Planning Conference. The United States Food and Drug Administration says it will authorize Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine, which could be rolled out as early as Monday. This is just as EU leaders agree on a more ambitious goal for cutting greenhouse gases. Justin Bemunyi reports on Global News Updates.
An advisory panel to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has recommended the emergency approval of a COVID-19 vaccine developed by Pfizer and BioNTech. The recommendation is expected to signal that the first approval of a COVID-19 vaccine for use in the U.S. is imminent. That would mark a major milestone in a pandemic that has killed more than 285,000 Americans and 1.5 million people globally. If the FDA grants emergency approval, the U.S. would be the third country in the world to have authorized the use of the Pfizer and BioNTech vaccine in the broader public behind the UK and Canada, and it will be the most populous country to do so. In the meantime, Bahrain has announced plans to give the public free coronavirus vaccines, as Saudi Arabia said it approved an inoculation by Pfizer and its German partner BioNTech to fight the pandemic. The island nation of Bahrain, off the coast of Saudi Arabia, made the vaccine pledge in an announcement published late Thursday by its state-run Bahrain news agency. Meanwhile, global number of confirmed COVID-19 cases now surpasses 71 million, as Nigeria now records 71,344 confirmed cases. In other news, EU leaders have agreed on a more ambitious goal for cutting greenhouse gases, reducing them by 55% by 2030 rather than 40%. The new target was reached after difficult all-night talks in Brussels. Poland, heavily reliant on coal, won a pledge of EU funding to help it transition to clean energy. The EU Commission will draw up detailed plans for all 27 member states to contribute to the 55% target measured against 1990 carbon dioxide emission levels. In the meantime, the U.S. has called for the immediate withdrawal of Eritrean troops from neighboring Ethiopia's Tigray region, following credible reports of their involvement in a civil conflict. The report relates to an assault that Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed ordered on the northern regional state November 4 after blaming it for an attack on a military base to try and steal weapons. Eritrea's involvement would confirm that the conflict has become regional. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Justin Bemunyi.
Family planning is critical to the nation's attainments of demographic dividend as it accelerates economic growth, social change, and achieves sustainable development. This was the view of speakers at the 6th National Planning Conference in Abuja. Basi Itaikpan reports that the 6th Family Planning Conference has virtual presence online with strict adherence to COVID-19 protocols.
Family planning is one of the most cost-effective ways of preventing maternal, infant, and child mortality, with the estimation that meeting women's need for birth control would prevent about 1/4 to 1/3 of all maternal deaths.
Investment in family planning saves lives, empowers women and girls, strengthens health systems, and has a profound and lasting impact on national development.
This is an issue that concerns more of women because we are in the center stage of family planning.
The population of Nigeria is fueled by high fertility rates, as many Nigerian women of reproductive age still do not have access to contraception for healthy timing and spacing of pregnancies.
We have successfully also advocated to government to put money down as counterpart support for FP commodities purchase, increasing the total support to $4 million and to make services free in public sites in the country.
This year's conference, which is the sixth in the series, experts say, presents unique opportunity to chart a new course for the health sector due to the COVID-19, which affected the health system throughout the world, disrupting access to family planning information and services. Basi Taikba, NTA News.
And to shed more light on the outcome of the just concluded National Family Planning Conference, I have with me in the studio the Portfolio Director, Johns Hopkins Center for Communication Program, Family Planning Portfolio, Nigeria, Dr. Mojushola Udeku. Dr. Mojushola, you're welcome to the studios of NTA International.
Thank you very much.
Now, taking a look at the theme of the national conference, what do you mean by investment, innovation, resilience in family planning?
Well, thank you very much. This year's uniqueness of the disruptions we had to life and living and different sectors through the COVID made this conference unique. What we really looked at is the ways we adapted, innovations that came to bear, and the resilience of the system in ensuring that family planning information and services were embraced even during the lockdown and post-lockdown period. Unfortunately, we dropped the ball on family planning services until much after when the Honorable Minister of Health made a proclamation that family planning services is an essential health service. And so the attention and the mobilization and advocacy on family planning was a bit lost in the initial stage of the pandemic. Furthermore, we learned that there were also the icing on the cake that digital platform brought to bear. Even though there were fears of accessing services at the health facility, fear from the healthcare providers getting exposed to the virus, or even the clients going there, we found that the community-based platforms of patent medicine vendors and community pharmacists came to step up and bridge that gap.
All right, now some experts say that the COVID-19 pandemic took us back 20 years, looking at the gains that have been made so far on family planning. What would you say about that?
I agree with you very much. First and foremost, we lost in the area of resources deployment. Remember the pandemic, all resources were pulled together to take care of the emergency at hand. And family planning funding was a bit challenged because of that. Furthermore, advocacies that used to be face-to-face, consistent, for change to happen, advocacy must be consistent. So during this period, we also lost steam on that. And one of the innovatives that we brought to bear now is for us to be able to transit to, we live more or less blended life now, to virtual platform on advocacy. Secondly, we didn't have family planning key messages integrated even into the emergency messages of health promotion messages that was going into the community. Only lately, in the past couple of months, have we been able to integrate that, because we do know that family planning is a key pillar to healthy living, healthy family and health well-being of the community, and most importantly, a pillar to enable Nigeria attain its demographic dividend. So we are catching up slowly right now, but there's still a lot to be done.
Now, looking, even as we speak, myths and misconceptions affect family planning in Nigeria due to traditional beliefs. Now, what has the conference adopted, the ways and means it thinks are more perfect in addressing these issues?
So myths and misconceptions are there. So deployed during this conference, we had different segments. Before the conference, the youth met, the women met, and the interfaith group, Muslims and Christians, clerics and leaders, with our traditional leaders met and looked at those issues that fuel myths and misconceptions. Remember that if the concrete and the evidence-based messages are not passed through a medium that reaches more people than fewer. And that's why we are actually excited that the media, through its various channels, whether the digital or the traditional media, had actually stepped up to project the key messages for evidence-based family planning. Myths and misconceptions were born by people's social norms, their belief, their cultural nuances, or their religion. And we were able to go through the documents that we have in Nigeria, evidences from all the states in Nigeria, of clerics who had used the holy books to convince us and confirm that family planning, child-bride spacing practices are actually entrenched in our holy books. You know, Nigeria is a very religious community. I mean, we've been alluded to that globally. And that's a key pillar of dispelling myths and misconceptions.
We thank you very much for sharing those insights with us, Dr. Mojishola.
Thank you very much for bringing me on.
That was Dr. Mojishola Udeku speaking on the National Conference on Family Planning. Moving on to other news, President Muhammadu Buhari is in Daura, Katsina State, on a private visit. This is the first time the president is visiting his ancestral home since August 2019. State House correspondent to the Musambu reports that the president was received on arrival at Umaru Musair Ado International Airport, Katsina, by Governor Aminu Bello Masari, the state deputy governor Maniri Yakubu, and the minister for Aviation Hadi Sirika. Also, as the airport were heads of various military and other services operating in the state. From the airport, President Buhari proceeded to the ancient town of Daura by a helicopter, where he was well received by his kith and kin. The paramount ruler of Daura, Farouk Umar Farouk, led traditional title holders in the emirate to welcome the Nigerian leader at Daura helipad. The president is expected back in Abuja Friday next week. Meanwhile, Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has canvassed the need for African writers to sustain telling the African story in the best African traditional formats. The minister made the call when he granted audience to the Secretary General of the Pan-African Writers Association, Dr. Wale Okediro, in Abuja. Anthony Forson completes the story.
Describing African writers as historians who are beacons of their roots, Lai Mohammed said they draw a lot of attention to the many challenges that exist after colonization. Therefore, the younger generation must be encouraged to be in the vanguard through modern-day technology.
Revive that golden age of African writers. That age where African writers actually fell in the pre-decolonization area, where they were as effective, where they collaborated also with our politicians.
Lai Mohammed, while congratulating Dr. Okedino over his appointment, said power as an umbrella body of writers on the continent and in the diaspora, whose mission is to strengthen the cultural bonds between Africans, given their diverse and rich cultural, political and economic heritage, the association must brace up to curtail Western influence and cross-cultural encroachment.
How do we instill in our young ones pride in their culture, pride in their tradition? How do we harness, how do we use technology to promote our rich traditions and culture?
On his part, Dr. Wale Okedino, who said literature is the testimony of a people's creativity as well as unifying factor and cultural identity, appealed to the minister to facilitate a constant interface between the association and the federal government, specifying that power is mandated by the AU to be supported by all African countries.
The association has grown in bounds and leaps to the extent that It has now been given a diplomatic status in Ghana and by extension in many African countries.
As a community of writers with a Pan-African vision, the Secretary General said the association is ready to partner with government in its onerous task of nation building and creative arts as well as cultural renaissance in Nigeria and on the continent. In Abuja,
You're watching the news on NTA International. We take a short break now. More stories when we return.
What limits you? Nothing. Who defines you? No one. Where can you go? Everywhere. With unlimited super-fast internet access, free Intel to Intel calls, and crystal clear quality conversations, you can do and be whatever you want to be. Intel. Live more.
Dialogue, empathy, love, and unity. These are vital components of nation building.
For all to be well, we appeal that we should refrain from volatile, provocative, inciting messages and language.
Let's build and not destroy.
Thank you for joining us again. In line with both federal and state governments' efforts at providing good and affordable housing for Nigerian workers, the Enugu State government has inaugurated 100 housing units built by the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria in partnership with Nigeria Labour Congress, Trade Union Congress, and Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, NECA. Susan Eze reports that the housing units situated at Idiobala in Nsukka Council area will mitigate the housing difficulties faced by Nigerian workers in the area.
Commission this building in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost.
The housing units, built in 3, 2, and 1-bedroom apartments, they say, would improve the living standards of workers in Nsukka area, as it is one of the essentials of human needs. Commending the state government for providing the site, the Executive Director, Finance and Corporate Service of the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, Melville Ebo, said the relationship between the bank, NLC, TUC, and NECA has brought the project in Nsukka and other parts of the country to fruition and reinstated the bank's continuous readiness to provide more shelters for Nigerians at lower interest rates.
Bank of Nigeria is in partnership and collaboration with the NLC, TUC, NECA, to be able to develop houses across the states.
The Enugu State Governor, represented by the Secretary to the State Government, after inspecting the quality of the facility, commended the bank for its partnership, which has helped in urbanization of rural areas. He assured of government steady engagement with relevant agencies to ensure that workers in the state enjoy dividends of democracy through the provision of conducive and affordable housing.
The commissioning of this project will herald new projects. As a state, we are prepared to partner more with Federal Mortgage Bank, with our brother, Reverend Ugochime, because we know that he will deliver if we give him an assignment.
The Managing Director, Multi-Development Investment Limited, Reverend Ugochime, and representatives of TUC described the project as a panacea to workers' housing challenges.
The idea of somebody saving money in very difficult times like this now it's not easy. That is not how it is done globally. Globally, you pay like 5% of the cost of the house. Then you move in and be paying it as if you are paying a rent. Sometimes the mortgage rate is even lower than the rent you are paying.
The housing project, built in a serene environment, the authorities say would have steady electricity and water supply. Enugu, Susan Eze, NTA News.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has commenced the process for the conduct of the 2023 general elections. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu stated this during a virtual meeting with resident electoral commissioners.
We have exactly 799 days to the next general election, holding on the 18th of February 2023. And we'll ensure that we work hard to achieve the activities. About 2 weeks ago, I was still speaking to the technical team. We identified 1,508 activities that we must accomplish between now and election day in 2023. Some will be carried out simultaneously, but that is an interim list. I'm sure by the time we finalize, it will be a bit longer, but we are committed to ensuring that we achieve what you need to achieve ahead of the election.
INEC Chairman there, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, speaking on preparations for the 2023 general elections. And the People's Democratic Party says it is yet to take a decision on where the party's 2023 presidential ticket will be zoned to. National Chairman of the party, Uche Sekundus, disclosed this at a media briefing in Abuja. Timothy Yusuf reports.
Gathered here are members of the PDP National Working Committee and Board of Trustees. The state of the party in the last 3 years and state of the nation dominated their agenda. Uche Sekundus explained that a committee chaired by Governor Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State is already in place to review the party's 2019 outing and as well profile solutions for the way forward.
I believe that whoever is interested when 2023 will come, maybe including the former president, the chances are that the PDP is a party of all. Everybody will have that opportunity. But in a clear terms, no, we have not taken any decision to give anybody a ticket for now.
Meanwhile, ahead of the Anambra 2021 governorship election, some of the party's stakeholders in the diaspora are calling for the need to give ears to President Buhari's call for them to contribute to the development of the country.
People who need to be in politics need to stop thinking about themselves and think about the community. And if you look at community, then you won't be causing factions. So my question is, I think PDP of today is being more united.
They enjoined Nigerians to embrace dialogue as the only option to dispute resolution. In Abuja, Timothy Yusuf, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed heartfelt commiserations with the family, friends and associates of Nigeria's outgoing ambassador to the United States, Justice Silvanus Ajewere-Nsofo, over his demise. In a telephone call to the widow of the retired justice in New York on Friday, the president described the deceased as an outstanding judge of rare courage and truth, who is not afraid to give justice to whom justice is due. Apparently referring to the 2003 presidential election, during which Justice Nsofo delivered a minority judgment as a member of the election appeal panel in favor of General Buhari as candidate of the All Nigeria People's Party, ANPP. The president said the country will miss people with such exemplary pedigree. President Buhari, who has directed the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to work with Justice Nsofo's family on the burial arrangements, prayed God to comfort all who mourn the departed jurist and grant his soul eternal rest. Sports news now. Nigeria-born British boxer Anthony Joshua sets for world heavyweight title fight. These and more on Sports Updates.
Many thanks for joining us on Sports Update. I'm Badi Adeleye. We begin with boxing. Reigning national featherweight champion Real One Oyekola, popularly known as Scorpion, has continued to gain massive support ahead of his World Boxing Federation title fight against Spain's Jose Ramos-Savin on the 27th of December 2020 in Ibadan. The latest show of support is coming from Oyo State government, whose Secretary Olubamiwo Adeosun received members of the local organizing committee of the world title fight on behalf of the state governor, Seyi Makinde.
I like that name, Scorpion, eh? So he bites very precisely. No pressures, but this belt that has come to the States today, we don't expect it to go.
It has been our wish, and it has been what we've been working towards, to see that we have another world champion.
Meanwhile, all is now set for the highly anticipated world heavyweight title fight between Nigerian-born British boxer Anthony Joshua and Kubrat Pulev at the SSE Arena in Wembley on Saturday night. Joshua's WBA, WBO and IBF heavyweight titles are on the line as he faces his Bulgarian challenger, and the 31-year-old insists he knows how to cope with huge expectation going into his latest fight. And finally, Premier League action continues on NTA this weekend with Newcastle United, who are seeking back-to-back wins for the first time this season, entertaining strugglers West Brom in a match that will be live from 3:30 in the evening. In other fixtures, Manchester United and Manchester City face off at Old Trafford in the first Manchester derby of the season, with Everton hosting Chelsea, while Fulham and Liverpool have scores to settle on Sunday. And that'll be all on Sports Update. I am Badi Adeleye.
Up next is a check on Saturday's weather prospect for Nigeria and some cities of the world.